Hi everybody, another episode of PincheAls Garage, and by request we finally got a car to do a timing belt DIY. This car's last timing belt done was at 80,000 miles, and we are now at what? 150,000. So it's due for a timing belt, water pump, and tensioner. Our guest star here is Lance on his Mark IV GTI. So what today's job is going to consist of is removing pretty much the reservoir. The power steering line is not going to be removed. We're going to unbolt it and just have it move out of the way. Most of the vacuum lines here. This main motor mount is going to be completely removed. What you're going to need to do is have a jack and some jack stands handy. You only have to jack up the passenger side of the car to do this job. Your other side you don't need to, because most of the time you're going to be on the side of the car or on the top to do the work on this car. We're going to need to remove the accessory belts, the wheel, and the side cover for your lower belly pan, the one that's underneath on the side that covers the pulleys. Like I was saying, this is by popular demand. People are asking for this DIY, and we finally able to do it. So hopefully you guys like this, and we'll walk you through the whole procedure. So if you already ordered a timing belt kit, this is a full kit. Most of the people get them from ECS Tuning. Lance got it from, what is it?
FCP Euro.
FCP Euro. Pretty much the kit, every kit should consist of timing belt, accessory belt, a water pump with the metal impeller. If you got a plastic one, you send that back immediately. The actual this is the hydraulic tensioner, and then this is the pulley tensioner. Depending on the kit you get, some of them will come with a thermostat housing and a new thermostat. This kit ran about $205. You guys can shop around if you guys are very optimistic about OEM parts. We use a lot of this stuff from ECS Tuning and FCC Euro. I think everything of this stuff works really well. I have the similar kit on my car, and I've already have like about 40,000 miles on it with no issues. So just shop around, but make sure you guys get good name brand stuff. Don't go cheap and try to go on partsgeeks.com or like Rock Auto. That stuff is like really cheap and crappy made, like Chinese parts. Just be careful, guys. Now you guys are seeing this, if you guys can. You'll see his pen. He's got a nice trail of G12 crust right here. You'll notice that it's coming from behind the pulleys. This is a good example or a symptom to show that your water pump has failed. A lot of times they have a little weeping hole or a seal that will fail before the actual pump will fail completely sometimes, and it will start leaking. You'll notice there's no more trail coming around from anywhere else other than behind these pulleys. So that's a good sign that the water pump is bad, unfortunately. So to start your procedure, once you got the car jacked up and have a jack stand on the side for it, the next step is to take off the pancake pipe and your side belly pan cover. This will expose the pulleys for you. They're going to be a flathead clamps on the pancake pipe, and you're going to need a 10 mil socket right here. This one right here will allow you to take the pancake pipe completely off the car. The pan, if you have these little washers, these washers still on here, these I take them off with a small flathead screwdriver and just manually twist them that way. That will allow you to actually grind, pull this out slowly without bending because a lot of people like to put a flathead behind it and pry it down, and what happens is it bends this and it becomes useless afterwards. We want to be able to reuse this so we can take this pan off. Alright, so the next step for you guys is to drain the fluid from the transmission. I mean, from the coolant. Drain the coolant from the radiator. Sorry, still early. If you go underneath your car on the driver's side, there's this little knob here. Just turn it, and it'll start pouring coolant out. Make sure you take the radiator, the reservoir cap off, so it allows the pressure to be released, so it pours out just like that. Wait until it pretty much starts dripping, and then close it up, and you guys have drained pretty much most of the coolant, not all of it. I have a big bucket, so I had to jack up the car a little bit more to do it, but if you guys have like a pan, this usually is about a gallon, maybe less than a gallon of coolant that would come out of this. So you guys don't really have to jack up the side of the car, but we did because I didn't have anything quicker to get to. Now with the pancake removed and the side cover taken off, you'll see here's the pulley you're going to need to take off, the crank pulley. Right now we're going to take off the accessory belt, so I'll show you guys how to do that really quick. So which one do you have, the 16? That fell? Yep. You're going to need a 16 mil wrench. You're going to put it on the actual top of the tensioner right here, and then what you're going to do is pull down on it. With this being pulled down, here, grab it, Lance. Pull straight down. This will loosen the tension on the actual accessory belt, and just hold it and just pull it off the alternator. Just like that. And take off the tensioner. That's it. Accessory belt is off. And just drop it from below. I usually recommend that you draw a diagram on how the accessory belt is routed if you guys are doing it for the first time. This is like my 100th time, so I don't need to really know how this belt goes on. When we put it back on, I will show you guys how to do it. Don't worry, it's just a part of the DIY. So the next part of this DIY is taking apart the whole top of this car. On this side, all this has to almost come out pretty much. So first thing we have to take out is the coolant ball. You're going to need a Phillips. One right there, one right over here. Do not mess around with these two lines right here. These two lines can come out, they just hold vacuum. They do have this is the purge canister, so you get a little bit of fuel fumes out of it. Don't worry, it's nothing like super dangerous or anything like that. As long as you live, work in a clean environment, you should be fine. These come off by just clicking. See this right here? Let's see if I can get there. Good angle. There you go. Push this down and just pull straight up. So just like that. You're gonna need to do the same thing on this one. Now I do this just so I can move things out of the way. For me, the less things in my way, the better, and the less irritation I have while I'm taking this car apart. Same with the coolant ball. There's a better exposure to those two lines, screws. Get a set of vice grips or some pliers or anything. Take the clamp off. Just slide it back out of the way. This hose just slides off. We're going to order a new coolant ball because if you look inside, the actual level for the sensor is actually broken. You'll see this chunks of plastic in there if you guys can see that. And I just noticed that this piece is broken too. So this car's never had this replaced, so it's a good time to replace it. They're very inexpensive. pull that out. I'll show you what's underneath. Alright, right here, you'll see right there's the other one that you're going to need. This guy right here, you're going to need a clamp, use the vice grips, clamp that down, push it down, and yank that out. And then your coolant reservoir will pop right out with no issues. And then I'll show you guys what to do next after that. So next is taking the power steering out of the way. This has a little clamp for the wiring. Just want to move that. Click here. Let's see if I can hold this camera right. There you go. This little thing just screws right off by hand and exposes the 10 mil. You'll need that, and then this power steering will be able to move up and wiggle out of the way. This stuff is okay. I mean, you can yank it out if you're really anal and you want this in the way still. You can yank these hoses right off. Just like that. Even though they're clamped in, they rip right, they yank out with no problems. So the next step is, some people like to do it, some people don't. Pull the fuel lines out. We're going to try to do it without pulling the fuel lines, just because it makes a mess and it stinks for a while. I mean, I don't mind the smell of gasoline, but sometimes you just don't want to do it. So next, 10 mil, and over here, these are, I believe, 14 or 15. Let me double check. So on this next part of the job, guys, I'm moving the power steering out of the way. So like I said, deep socket 10 and this, and power steering now is all loose. This just gives you the ability to get to the 16 mil on the side of the motor mounts, and once you get that out of the way, you can move this way, and you get to the 18 mil that are over here. Now before you guys touch those, make sure you get a jack underneath the car on the oil pan with a nice block of wood to support that, because if not, it's going to drop the motor, obviously. We have to keep that as engine supported, so do that next. So there's another bracket right next to the motor mount. You can take that one off next. It's a 13 mil socket. I have you guys on a tripod, so I'm not going to be able to show you guys like everything all at once. But when you guys actually start doing the work, you'll see what I mean. This little bracket right here. It's right next to the motor mount. Next, I'm going to get the jack underneath the car. What you're going to do is jack it up until you see the engine start moving a little bit up. Leave it alone. You're done. Don't jack it up too high, because if you do, you'll end up making it too hard for the motor mount to come off. So just enough to alleviate the pressure on the bolts, so everything comes off pretty easy. So now with the engine raised a little bit, the jack underneath, now to take the motor mount off. These go on pretty tight. When you start putting anything back on, guys, look up your torque specifications online. This DIY does work well for 2.0 motors as well. VR6s, it's on the opposite side. You guys have all the timing components on the transmission side, so not the same, not gonna work. This DIY can also be used as reference for 2.0 Ts with the TSI, I'm sorry, with the FSI motors in them. That's how I was able to do one, because I used it as reference when I did my first GTI, and it worked exactly the same. Because those cars have a very similar setup to the 1.8 Ts. See, with the engine lifted up, these bolts come right off with no problems. Now, if you guys are on a budget, these bolts right here are stretch bolts. These are the ones on the actual motor mount side. They're not recommended to reuse once you take them off. Personally, I like to use just a little bit of Loctite on them and then reuse them. Haven't had a problem with them yet, but it's recommended that you replace them. So now, with those 4 bolts removed, motor mount is out. Not that hard, guys. So the next thing we're going to need to do is get this Y pipe right here, the coolant pipe, out of the way as well. Use the clamp that's on the single clamp instead of the dual clamps over here. That'll allow you to get that one out of the way. Just so you guys know, it will leak a little bit of coolant even though you drained some of it already. So be prepared to make a small mess. Lance on his car upgraded to the metal Y pipe. This pipe is highly recommended for anybody doing maintenance on their cars, because this pipe is notorious for leaking coolant. So that's removed. This is going to give you all the working space you're going to need to actually take the timing belt out. The next thing you guys are going to need to do is take the timing cover off. Two clamps and just slide it up. Now, to check on these guys, what you guys want to check on these belts is number one, for shininess. Really shiny belts means that the belt's starting to wear pretty quickly. Also, you can check on the ribs, see if they're starting to crack. You can see that from down here. If you start seeing like little crack marks going long ways or horizontally, you're definitely due for a timing belt. So the next part of the procedure is going to be down below. We got to take the lower timing cover off. The crank pulley, actually, I'm sorry, the crank pulley, then the lower timing cover, and then the next thing is the motor mount bracket. This one is held together by 3 16 mil. This one's kind of weird and to remove. You have to take one off from the top, jack the engine up, take it off from a different angle, then the lower one, and then that will slide out. This one you kind of have to like maneuver to take it out. So the next part is removing the crank pulley. So you guys, to remove the crank pulley on this guy, I don't even know the Allen bit size on this because it's not even marked. But here you're gonna need this. If you don't have a socket like I don't, it's gonna be a little bit harder, but it's still doable. So what I do is I grab a wrench and I use the wrench for leverage because these go on here pretty tight, and crank it over. Just gotta find a good spot to do it. Good angle. If you guys watch my power pulley DIY, you guys can use that as a better reference than what I'm doing it today. I think I lost my socket for this, so I'm trying to find a good way to do this for you guys. There's one. Okay, when it's starting to crank over like this, what you're gonna need to do is have someone else hold this, if you can, Lance. I was trying to spew coolant out.
Where?
Right here.
Oh, it's coming from the timing belt then. I mean, water pump.
Yeah. So what you're going to do is have someone put the pulley on tighten position while you try to loosen, and then repeat the process 4 times to get all the 4 bolts loose, and then the crank pulley will slide straight out. So once you guys remove the crank, it'll expose the 10 mil bolts right here. There should be like the 4, 2 on the bottom, and then there should be 2 or 3 on top. Take those off, and that will expose the water pump and the rest of the timing components. So the next thing you're going to need to do, guys, with the 16 mil deep socket, the first one is easy. It's right here, 16 mil deep socket, plug it in, crank it, it'll come right out. The next one with the jack at the bottom, that's why we need a jack on the bottom on top of just holding the motor, is to raise the motor. So once the motor is raised up, it gives you access to this one over here at the back. Deep socket and your ratchet, and just a lot of patience because you're only going to move this a couple clicks at a time. So we ended up taking up the accessory belt tensioner. It's just a 13 mil, 3 bolts. It just allowed us to get more space in here, more hand space, I guess you can say, to just wrench around stuff, because it's getting a little bit difficult now. Not a big deal. It was like a minute worth of wrenching to take off that tensioner. And now Lance is taking off the last 10 mil bolt on the metal timing cover, or the lower one. And it's a 2-piece, so it's a little annoying. Yeah, they're all out. Go, yank it out. There. There's the cover off. Now this exposes pretty much everything, and yeah, the timing, the water pump is leaking. See right here, there's a bunch of residue right here, right underneath the timing. Wish you guys, see if you guys can see that with my fingers moving. That seal, that means it's failing. Water pumps, they prematurely fail, not the seal, but the pump itself. They create a weeping hole. See this right here where my finger's at? There's a little hole there. Once it hits a certain pressure, it starts spewing cooling out. That's because the water pump is telling you it's failed. This one, the seal failed on this one, so which is a little bit better, because then he can drive around and get where he needs to go without it causing the car to overheat, which is good, because we don't want overheating cars, because then you get warping heads and other fun stuff. So the next part on getting this car ready for a replacement is setting the timing. On all the Mark IV timing gears, there's a marker. This one's already been marked. You'll see right here in white. There's a notch right inside here. This is supposed to match up with this one right up here. So with your 19 mil 12-point socket and your ratchet, go down to the crank gear and line that sucker up. Now you want that extension. So you're going to do lefty-loosey on this one. So 19 mil socket, that's a 12-point multi-point on this point right here. This is your crank gear. You want to spin it. So slow down a little bit more. Keep going. Okay, slow down right there. A little bit more. A little, like right there. Okay. Now this is allowing us to set the timing right here. Now, if you guys want to set it to top dead center to get this 100% accurate for our timing, take the timing, the engine cover off, take the spark plugs out, cram a long screwdriver in there, and set the screwdriver to TDC. The crank into TDC. I don't like doing that because it's just more time consuming. It doesn't make a difference for anybody. Just make sure you guys use your timing marks for making sure that your stuff is on point. So once this is set here, you want to grab a Sharpie, I have them in the cabinet, and start marking all your points. So right here you want to draw a line from this marker straight across to this marker on the belt. Down below you want to use, I like to use this little nub here and go straight across and go straight onto here, and just draw a really thick line all the way across. This will allow us to make sure we're marked where we need to be. Just make sure you don't touch it and rub it so you don't lose your marking points. And yeah, you guys can see that the coolant is just dripping on this guy. Alright, so the tensioner pulley, washer just fell. Remember how you guys took it apart? Sorry I didn't show you guys, but it's just an 8mm Allen bit in here, on there. Turn it, break it loose. Looks like they give you, on the new ones, they tend to give you new hardware. So don't reuse the old shit, use the new stuff. So it's 8mm Allen socket with the wrench, break it loose. Once you get that one out, the next one is the water pump. It's going to have 3 10mm bolts, 1, 2, 3 on the bottom, Break those loose. Once those are off, get a flathead screwdriver, and then you're gonna, right here in this little lip, you're gonna pry in and break loose the seal, and then you should be able to wiggle that water pump out. Just so you guys know, get like a couple rags on the bottom, because it's going to spew out a bunch of coolant. Actually, I think we should get the bucket. Just so you guys know, it's just gonna pour out a bunch of coolant, so just be aware. Okay, so now that we took the water pump out, the next thing is the actual tensioner here, the hydraulic tensioner. It has two 10 mils. You can't see them from here, but they're behind. Get a deep socket 10 mil on your ratchet and just ratchet them off. Just find them and just take them off. Once you're done with that, start cleaning the area where the water pump is located. We're going to teach you another method for sealing these pumps for premature like seal failure. We're going to use a water pump gasket and make a little gasket seal just around this, and what it does is that if for any reason it does it again, you have a second seal to prevent that coolant from leaking. So now that we got the new hydraulic tensioner in, this is where you're actually going to look up your torque specifications to start torquing this down properly. Make sure you guys got a nice foot-pound or Newton-meter torque wrench. That's 3/8. As well as messing around with this one stupid motor mount bracket. It's kind of annoying. It's in the way. But you need to leave it in here, because if you take it out, it's going to be even harder to take it out and put it back in with the belt in place. So just leave it in, just wiggle it around just to get around your stuff that you're doing. I think it's harder it's more annoying just to do the tensioner. Other than that, everything else should be out of the way for. Right now we're getting the torque specifications for you guys, so you guys can know what they are for the tensioner, the idler pulley, and the water pump. The water pump and...
Yeah, 11 pounds for the hydraulic and the water pump, and then 20 pounds for this bad boy.
Okay, so you guys didn't catch that. 20 pounds of torque on this guy, 20 foot-pounds, 11 pounds on the hydraulic tensioner and the water pump. Got it? Got it. Okay, everybody, the next thing you know is a water pump install. Same way like taking it off. One thing we're going to do though, that before we install it, we're going to prep it with some water pump gasket maker from Permatex. It's very simple. It's the gray RTV, little tiny one. And what you're going to do is just lather it around just the outside of the water pump. A really thin layer. What this is going to allow us to do is, once this is installed, it's kind of a second barrier. So this gasket, when this decides to fail, you have another gasket just to hold you out. When these water pumps actually fail legitimately, they squirt water out of this little hole, like I mentioned earlier. This is when it's an actual water pump failure. This will squirt water out. That's what we call a weeping hole. That's when you want to be more concerned, is when that shit actually starts to leak coolant. Then you know you have actually a water pump failure. So let's get this going. The torque specs on these bolts are 11 pounds. So just remember that. Get your little 3/8 click wrench and get that going once it's installed. So now we're going to install the new roller. Idler pulley actually is what it's called, or tensioner pulley. This one does have to go in a specific way. This is where the tensioner actually hits right here. So make sure it goes on above the tensioner this way. This goes in. Make sure every time you install them by hand. Never use like a ratchet or anything to install these, because you want to make sure you don't cross thread anything. And the way that you know if you installed it correctly is that this little piece right here hits the actual hydraulic tensioner. So you guys can see that right there. It lands on the tensioner itself. That way we know we actually are on the proper tension on here, okay? And then this one goes on with 20 pounds of torque. So on the new belt, we marked, we matched it up with the old one and made a marking point. We're going to use that mark to line up with the cam pulley on top. So now it's time to install. Now usually what I tend to do is try to get the top one first, and then like right there, once that's on there, make sure your markings line up. If they are, then you're good on top. And then what you're going to do is slide it down. I always
now it falls out.
It falls out, and we need that to put it back in. We can get to it in a little bit. So while someone's holding the top one, feed the bottom one. Now what's going to be hard is you have to actually do the bottom one first. I mean second. You got to loosen the idler pulley. You're never actually supposed to torque this down. It has to be loose, so it will give you slack to get it over the water pump. Because if you don't, this will be impossible to put on. So and next thing, you take the bolt almost off. This will allow you to give some extra play to get that belt on. So while your other buddy's holding the belt on top, and you make sure the markings line up, you tug on the bottom one and then start doing the bottom portion of the belt. Now down below, like I was saying, while your buddy's holding it, make sure your crank pulley and the markings stay lined up the entire time. Because what it likes to do is spin that pulley, and it'll throw off your alignment. So like right now, I just spun it, so that means we're off by a tooth somewhere around here. I'm gonna stop the recording. So now that we got everything on, I'll explain to you what we had to do. Sorry that I couldn't film it. This was kind of like a two-person job at this point, because it makes it a little bit easier if you're kind of a novice at it. So what we had to do is loosen the idler pulley about 3/4 of the way out. Loosen the water pump a little bit by about 3 to 4 threads. Once you get that, you're going to want to slide the belt. Once you have your marking on here, slide the belt out about halfway. As long as you know that marker doesn't move, go all the way down at the bottom on your crank gear. You want to move it about half a tooth away from the from your timing marker. Half a tooth, not a full tooth. The reason for this is because you're going to have slack when this belt goes down. The reason for this is because of the tensioner. So when that goes down and you actually line it up, once you pull on the belt to actually put tension back on it, on the right side, that marker should be back on its center piece where it's supposed to be. And then just make sure everything else lines up. The belt here, what you're going to need to do is kind of like fold it a little bit back and then try to slide it over. It takes a little bit of wiggling. It takes about 5-10 minutes to get it in. Once you do that, torque everything back down to spec. Remember everybody, idler is 20 pounds, water pump's at 11 pounds, the hydraulic tensioner is at 11 pounds as well. Once you do that, just put everything back together, reverse the process of what you just did. We're going to show you guys how to do the burp the coolant system in a little bit, because since we drained all this coolant out of the engine and out of the radiator, you're going to have air in it. We're going to have to we'll show you how to get rid of all the air out of the car. That's the next process. Alright, so one problem that we came across, forgot about it, the engine bracket, you have to make sure this is actually in here the entire time when you're putting the belt back on. If you don't, you're going to have to redo it. We ended up redoing it because we forgot about it. so it kind of messed us up. But we got it back on. We put the timing belt back on. Same process like I explained earlier. Then everything else went on pretty solid. Just double check your timing marks. Make sure they stay on point, guys, because if they don't, you have to redo, or you'll get a clicking, or you'll bend a valve. Okay? That's why you make sure your timing marks are on point and super visible. Thanks everybody for watching. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I still got to show you guys how to do the coolant system burp. So that's next. So keep watching, guys. Alright everybody, so the last procedure doing the timing belt and the water pump and the coolant system is to burp the system. So what you need to do is fill your coolant reservoir to like max, turn on the car, and let it idle. If you have another friend with you, have them keep it up around 2,000 RPMs and let it rev for about a minute that long. What this does is just allowing the car to heat up fast enough for us so we can open up that thermostat faster. The next thing you also have to do is make sure you turn on the heater full blast, so that cycles through the radiator, the heater core in there, so you can get all the air bubbles out. What's eventually going to happen is that this is going to go down and go up. The reason for this is going to go down because you're finally going to get water going through the thermostat. It's going to go up because it's heating up. Up here on the upper radiator hose, it should be hot. The bottom one should be warm. Right now it's cold, so that means the thermostat hasn't opened yet. So we have to wait till that happens. Once that cycles through and warms up, this will get a drop in level. That means the water is finally cycling through. This procedure takes about a half an hour. Just keep watch and keep adding coolant when you need to. But make sure you pay attention, because it will start to boil over and start pouring coolant out. When that happens, that means it's gotten too hot. So just keep watch, okay guys? And then let this go for about a half an hour, like I was saying, because it takes a long time for that to heat up at idle speeds, because you're not putting a load on the engine. Alright everybody, so after running it for about a half an hour, I tell them to keep the RPMs around 2,000, 2,500. The thermostat opened, it bubbled, it did its job. We did that for about another 10 minutes. And then we cap it to make sure that we put pressure into the system. And that allows us to see if our job was done right and there's no leaks. If there's no leaks, you're good. You guys successfully did a timing belt job without any problems. We ended up putting a thermostat and a new lower radiator hose. We'll do that we'll have a DIY for future jobs. We didn't film that because we were just in a rush. So thank you everybody for watching PincheAls Garage with guest star Lance and Mark IV GTI 2003 1.8T turbo. It's what we're here for, and it's what we do. Thanks again everybody. Bye.